Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and this is going to be my reading stats wrap up for the year. I thought about doing the end of the year tag along with these statistics like I usually do. I just didn't vibe with many of the questions this year, so instead we're just gonna tell you a few extra things in addition to my statistics. So I track 4 different representation statistics during the year. So I'm going to tell you about those and also kind of discuss why I think I read so little this year compared to other years. So this year I read 120 books total. For reference, last year I read a little over 200. The year before that I read about 150, and the 2 years before that I read 200 as well. For as long as I've been tracking my books read on Goodreads, which is 5 years, this is the fewest amount of books I've read in a year. And during my mid-year freakout tag, where I also did my statistics, I talked about how I thought it was because I wasn't enjoying the books I was reading enough, but I think I gave that reason too much credit because I had a lot of books I was really excited to read during the second half of the year, and I didn't get a lot of them read. And it wasn't because I wasn't wanting to read them, it was because I didn't have the time and especially didn't have the energy. I was very low on energy this whole year. I have been struggling with, my fatigue has gotten worse in the last 2 years. But I've been doing a lot more activity in the last year. I got activated in the leftist sense this year, or late last year, and so I've been doing a lot of stuff in that area, a lot of getting organized with my local community, which takes a lot of energy because I am an introvert, and when I ever interact with people, it takes a lot of energy. And I've also had like stuff to do, like organizational tasks for those groups, even when I wasn't like doing stuff with them. So I think that has a lot more to do with why I have had less time for my hobbies this year than reading the wrong books. So I do really like being able to read a lot of books in a year, and between 15 and 20 books a month. It gives me a lot of books to talk about and helps me get my massive TBR of recommendations from other social media bookish people down. You know, helps me promote lots of books that I think should be promoted. I don't think I plan on trading in what I've been doing locally for reading more. So the next few years are probably going to be about the same. So that's my thoughts on my total number of books read this year. That's still an average of 10 books a month, which is pretty good for someone who is having chronic fatigue and also doing other activities. I read 72 books by Black, Indigenous, or POC authors, which is about 59%, and I am happy with that. I try to keep that number just a little bit above half. I know from tracking over the years that percentage has increased, so I believe that tracking it has helped me to like adjust my like order of priority for what books I want to read next. So I think that that is helpful to me going forward to continue to track those statistics. And you'll see in a moment that there are a couple of statistics that I would still like to improve. For queer rep, that's not just queer authors, but anyone who has a queer main character. We have 30%, which I'm also happy with. Then there are 2 that I want to work on having more representation for these in the future, and that is fat rep, of which I read 15 books, which is 12%, and disabled representation, which was 14 books at 11%. I also like to break down things by genre and see if whether or not I am reading a lot of my favorite genres. So fantasy and romance, I actually read the same number of books in both categories, 41, which is each 34%. Now this doesn't necessarily add up to 68% because some of those are overlaps. I counted the fantasy romance books twice. And I read a fair amount of those. So it's probably more like 50% of my reading has been in the fantasy and or romance category, but I've really enjoyed the other books that I've read this year. So another statistic is for my writing, I have written 40,000 words approximately across 3 projects. So I recently passed 20,000 words on my Empire book. I have about 3,000 in my solar punk book, and then I have 17,000 in my dragon shifter romance book, 10,000 of which were written just this month in December, which is 40,000 more words than I had written in the last 3 or 4 years combined. So I'm very happy about that. I also have a favorite movie from this year, favorite new movie, as my old favorites tend to be pretty much the same, but I went to watch Wild Robot in theaters. We went like a month after it came out on a matinee on like Tuesday, so there was absolutely no one else in the theater, which is my favorite. It's a very sweet movie, and which has reignited my desire to finish the series. I only read the first book in the series. There's 3 of them. So yeah, I'd very much like to reread the first one and read the second 2 books. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear any interesting statistics from your reading from this year. Have you read more books this year than last year or less? Did you enjoy the books you read this year more or less than last year? And have you had a nice holiday season? I'll see you in the next video. Bye!